Welcome to the Humble ISD Advanced Learning Podcast, where our goal is to talk about anything and everything related to advanced learning in less time than it takes for you to get from home to school or work. I'm Dr. Tong Uterkrit, the Director of Advanced Learning for Humble ISD. Today we're joined by Christy Huseman to talk through an incredible resource we have here in the district, and that's Shmoop. Christy, welcome back. I know you and I have had a chance to talk about several different things before, and so excited to talk about Shmoop today, but I mean, it's fun to say, but what is it?
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me back on. So Shmoop, it is really fun to say, and it's funny, but it's more than that. So it's a comprehensive test prep resource for all of our 9th through 12th graders in Humble ISD. So Shmoop really believes that students can love learning and that humor can be the catalyst for engagement.
If I can engage a kid through humor, I think that's huge. If I remember right, when we talked about Shmoop, isn't Shmoop like it's like Yiddish or something, isn't it? Isn't that where it came from?
Yeah, so it's a Yiddish word that means to move things forward a little bit at a time. And so that's really what they're trying to do, is that yes, they want it to be funny, yes, they want it to be engaging, but ultimately we want it to be effective learning for our students as well. And so that's really what they're trying to accomplish.
And so when we look at, so obviously we're partnering with Shmoop. Why? Why Shmoop to provide this test prep resource for our high schoolers?
So 2 years ago, I was really looking for a company to partner with in order to provide embedded college test prep to our AVID sophomores and juniors. And having the ability to implement it on a smaller scale through AVID classes really allowed us to survey the students and the teachers about the program, look at the data to see if what they were learning was translating to higher scores and deeper learning, and also to really get to know the company before scaling it to all 9th and 12th graders. And so we saw great success with our AVID students and decided to go ahead and dive all in and provide this for all of our 9th to 12th grade kiddos. And so the other reason we chose Shmoop is really because it's comprehensive. And it includes all test prep that you can think of at the high school level. So it's not just about SAT, ACT, PSAT, which is all important, and yes, Shmoop does that, but it also includes EOC testing for STAAR. It includes TSIA-2, which is important for taking dual credit classes. It includes AP exam test prep, and so it's completely comprehensive, and that's what we're really looking for as a district.
And so when I want to take a little bit of a closer look at that, right? When you talk about test prep, when you talk about SAT preparation, ACT preparation, any of those things, there's a few big names that stand out, right? Whether it be a Kaplan, Khan Academy, there's some of these names that they have that name recognition.
So most people think of Princeton Review. They think of Kaplan test prep when they're really thinking about SAT, ACT test prep. I was actually trained as a Princeton Review teacher and implemented that very specific test prep in my classroom. And so I know those systems very well. Shmoop is actually used by over 6 million people in the United States, so it's very well known. I just think that in the South especially, we have really held on to Princeton and Kaplan as our test prep resources. One of the major differences, though, with Shmoop is its approach. So Shmoop uses a diagnostic approach to identify individual student learning gaps. Then they enable a customized test prep program for our students based on that student's needs. It is the very definition of what we're trying to accomplish here in Humble ISD, which is personalized learning for our kiddos. Additionally, their content is extremely engaging and effective for students. Like I said earlier, it's not about it just being funny, but it's also extremely effective. We've seen that in the scores for our AVID students. So Shmoop does have a goal to help students increase their test scores, but they also want students to associate learning with fun and joy, and that's why they create the content that they create. Like I said earlier, I was trained as a Princeton Review teacher, and I embedded that in my classroom, and one of the biggest hurdles that I was always trying to overcome is the engagement piece, because it was so dry, and it was difficult to have students really latch on to their learning because of how dry the content was, even though it's very well known.
And so when you think about that, right, we know that research has suggested student engagement is huge, plays a huge part in student learning, but also that relevance piece, right? Everyone wants to, not just students, but I think as human beings, we want to know, like, how is this relevant to me? How does this impact me in my life? And so for Shmoop to be able to use things like pop culture references, I think it really helps to provide that tie-in for kids, even though some might think it's silly or whatever else. It's important to these students, it's important to them in their age group. And so being able to draw from that, I think helps to engage them in that learning process. And so when you look at a resource like Shmoop, how is it that you would hope students would use the resource? How much time does a student really need to spend with Shmoop in order to benefit?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. So it really is going to depend on what your goals are as a student. Ideally, Shmoop is engaging enough that students find it valuable in their learning journey and want to engage in it because it's actually working for them. They have a deeper understanding of the content. They are seeing that they are able to have higher scores on their EOC or their SAT or their PSAT. When it comes to time, again, it all depends on what classes you're in, what grade level you're in, and what grades or what goals you have. So as a student, when you think about Shmoop and the amount of time I'm going to spend engaging with Shmoop, you have to consider what your goal is. So am I trying to get into a particular college? Am I trying to earn a particular scholarship? Or am I trying to be considered for a particular program within a university? So all of those things would play into how much time you'd want to be spending engaging with Shmoop. So many people believe that either you do well on these tests or you don't. Like, it's a one-time thing, I'm just going to crank it out and see how I do. And I really want to challenge that and say that test prep is just like getting better at anything else. So you have to spend consistent time doing it in order to grow.
Well, yeah, and fundamentally, too, it's about the understanding of the underlying content there, too, right? And so our kids, not just, I want to make sure that we're clear that this is not just a test strategy sort of resource. This is helping to gain a deeper level of understanding and knowledge of these different content areas. So we want our kids to engage with it. We want our kids to access it on their own. But when we look at everything that Shmoop provides, can we talk a little bit about, like, what does this look like for us at the campus level? We want our kids to use it independently, but I know, like you referenced a little bit ago, we've used this with AVID students in the past, but how else are we using this in the schools in our district?
Yeah, so this is actually one of the reasons why we chose to partner with Shmoop, is that there's flexibility in how students can access it. So yes, students can access Shmoop on their own, but we also have campuses embedding this into their coursework as well. So for instance, we have AP teachers who embed Shmoop into their classroom, and they're using it as an extension of student textbooks and curriculum. We have our STAAR EOC teachers also doing this very same thing.
Yeah, I think sometimes one of the things that we talk through, especially when we look at AP classes, for example, the goal of the AP class is to help kids get that credit for their colleges. And so when kids take this AP exam, really the baseline goal, I would say, would be let's get them at least a 3, right? If you do well in the course, you should at least get a 3, which is passing by college board standards. But I think having something like a Shmoop, right, even taking it back to this idea that Shmoop is just to move forward a little bit, right? It's, can I push a kid from a 3 to a 4, right? Can I push a kid from a 4 to a 5? Or even better, can I get a kid who might just be a 2 and get them on that 3 side so that they're able to get that college credit and really save in the end when it comes to tuition dollars and everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When we talked a little bit ago, I know you mentioned that Shmoop is new to all of our high schoolers this year, being the 21-22 school year. But AVID students in the district have been using Shmoop now for a couple of years. So can you tell me a little bit more about that and what you've seen with our AVID students in using this? I guess this is year 3 for them?
This is year 3 for them. So our AVID sophomores and juniors have really enjoyed using Shmoop. So as an elective that focuses on preparing students for post-secondary success, it was really important for our department to ensure that we were providing test prep to these students that was engaging and effective. So the teachers found it extremely easy to use, which is something that we have to think about. We want resources that are easily accessible, not only for our students, but also for our teachers and the staff that are going to be engaging in it. And they, both parties found it extremely engaging and effective and really easy to use. So the teachers found it easy to use. Our students really enjoyed the gamified approach to Shmoop, which I haven't talked about. So this is a really interesting technique that Shmoop uses, and students can earn schmoints. That's right, like points, but schmoints. Okay. And there's a leaderboard, and they can be the leader in their classroom based on the number of schmoints that they're earning. And so there's a competitiveness that's also embedded in it that we can capitalize on and use to incentivize our students. And so all of those pieces really created this environment for our students to want to use Shmoop. They're learning while they're engaged in a really fun activity. They're being challenged. And what we also saw is, yes, their scores increased for PSAT and SAT. We definitely saw that. But more interestingly to me as an educator is we saw students talking about Shmoop outside of like the designated Shmoop time, right? So even when it wasn't required to engage in it, they were choosing to engage in it. And I think that that is really where the success lies, is when you know that a student is making a choice to engage in a product or to engage in learning when they don't have to. And so that is really what we saw with our AVID students. And whenever we surveyed and talked to them and the teachers, they couldn't say enough about it. And they were like, please, this is coming back, right?
I know you referenced it earlier with Princeton, where the content is rich, but can sometimes come across as dry to our kids, where this time it's really capitalizing on, hey, you want your schmoints. You want to be on top of the leaderboard to make sure that you've got those bragging rights amongst your peers, right? Mm-hmm. But let's face it. Sometimes ideally we want our students to really own their learning. Sometimes it's a teacher that wants to boost how their students are doing, whether it's with PSAT, SAT, end-of-course exams. But other times I think we have a group of parents that are just grasping for ways to help their students out. As a parent who now, look, I know that if I want my kid to go to a university, they're going to have to take an SAT and ACT. They're going to have to do this. Is there anything I can do to help my kid with Shmoop as a parent?
Yeah, so for me, I believe that the biggest help a parent can engage in to assist their students with Shmoop is just ensuring that they know how to log in and use the platform. So typically the biggest barrier to actually using a product is the first step. And so our students, we've tried to make it as accessible as possible. They can simply go into My Humble. There's a Shmoop button. They just click on that, they choose their campus, and then they start engaging in Shmoop. And so really just sitting down with your student and saying, hey, I heard about Shmoop, let's just check it out and see. And I can almost guarantee, I won't guarantee, but I can almost guarantee that if you can just get your kid on the platform, that it's engaging enough and it's effective enough that they'll want to keep returning to it. So that's really my advice with parents, is just that first step of ensuring that you sit with them and make sure, like, hey, just show me, I heard about this. Can you just show me how to log in? And if they don't, and you don't know how to figure it out from just going into My Humble, then absolutely reach out to the campus counselor who can help you. One of the not main reasons, but another reason why we partnered with Shmoop is their customer service is phenomenal.
Man, what a great resource we have for all of our high school students to help them with their advanced learning test prep. Look, if I want to know more details on how to access this and use this, where can I go?
You're my number one, go to the campus. So campus counselor, if it's an AP class that your student is in, then they can reach out to the AP teacher. But the campus counselor is going to be the number one person to go to. So reach out to them and they should be able to provide you instructions on how to log in. You can also, again, contact Shmoop directly at support@shmoop.com. and they can walk you through the instructions for how to log in. But either of those two ways are great ways to get started with Shmoop.
Awesome. Well, look, that's all the time we have today with the Advanced Learning Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be notified when we drop a new episode talking about anything and everything related to advanced learning. This is Dr. Tom Uticrit, and this has been the Advanced Learning Podcast, keeping you ahead of the learning curve in Humble ISD.